The second half of the 20th century to present day is full of many discoveries in the continuing search for human origins. A lot of new fossils and species were discovered during this time period, and with each new discovery, we are getting closer and closer to finding all the links in the search for human origins. Paranthropus boisei was first discovered in 1955, and the species was named in 1959 after Mary Leakey discovered a skull that scientists were able to confirm as a new species. The discoveries took place in the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania. This species lived 2.3 to 1.2 million years ago in eastern Africa, more specifically in Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Malawi. This species had a very wide and flat face with a skull shaped for chewing, and they had large molars and premolars thick with enamel. This species actually had molars 4 times the size of the modern humans today. The male and females of this species varied in size as well. The males are larger. Male Paranthropus boisei averaged 108 pounds and 5 feet 4 inches, while the females averaged only 75 pounds and 4 feet 1 inches. The discovery of Homo habilis is credited to Louis and Mary Leakey in 1960. Homo habilis differs from older hominins in the Australopithecus in that it has a smaller face and teeth than older species, yet its brain case is slightly larger and heading in the direction of modern humans. This early human fossil was found when the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania was excavated by their team from 1960 to 1963. The name Homo habilis means handyman because it is believed this type of early man manufactured and used stone tools. Thousands of stone tools were found in Olduvai Gorge along with the remains of this species. This species is thought to have lived in eastern and southern Africa 2.4 to 1.4 million years ago. It is approximated to have been smaller than the modern humans at about 70 pounds and between 3 foot 4 inches to 4 foot 5 inches. Australopithecus afarensis, also known as Lucy's species, was discovered in 1974. This species gained its formal name in 1978 after several fossils were found in Hader, Ethiopia and Latolia, Tanzania. This species lived approximately 3.85 to 2.95 million years ago in eastern Africa, more specifically in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. This species had similarities with both apes and humans. This species had a flat nose, protruding lower jaw, and a brain case about the third the size of the modern human. This species lives both in trees and on the ground, combining the lifestyles of humans and apes today. This species was adept at climbing trees with long ape-like arms, but they also had the ability to stand on 2 legs and walk in an upright position. Donald Johanson and Maurice Taieb discovered the most famous fossil from this species in 1974. AL2881, more commonly known as Lucy, after the famous Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Lucy was discovered in Hader, Ethiopia, and is estimated to be about 3.2 million years old. She is very famous because of the completeness of her skeleton that was uncovered, which makes her a vast source of information. Paranthropus opithecus officially became a new species in 1985 when Alan Walker and Richard Leakey discovered a skull west of Lake Turkana in Kenya. This species was actually first proposed in 1967 when a partial mandible was discovered by a team of French paleontologists. This partial mandible was not enough evidence to garner classifying it as an entirely new species at the time. While there is still not much fossil evidence for this species, scientists know that it lived about 2.7 to 2.3 million years ago in eastern Africa, specifically in the Turkana Basin of northern Kenya and also in southern Ethiopia. The height and weight of this species are currently unknown due to lack of fossil evidence. It is, however, known that this species had a protruding face, large chewing teeth, and very strong jaws. The species Homo rudolphinus was officially named in 1986 by the Russian scientist V.P. Alexeyev. This species' fossils were first discovered in 1972 in Kenya near Lake Turkana. The original fossils were unearthed by Richard Leakey and his team, but they originally assumed it was a Homo habilis fossil. Today it is differentiated from the Homo habilis by having a bigger brain case, longer face, and bigger molars and premolars. This species lives in eastern Africa, specifically in northern Kenya and perhaps in northern Tanzania and Malawi. as well as about 1.9 to 1.8 million years ago. The size of the species is unknown at this point because they haven't found a complete fossilized skeleton. Ardipithecus ramidus was named in 1994 after discoveries of fossils starting in 1992 in the Middle Awash area of Ethiopia. This species lived in eastern Africa in Middle Awash and Gona, Ethiopia, approximately 4.4 million years ago. The most famous fossil from this species is the partial female skeleton nicknamed Ardi. This partial skeleton has allowed scientists to estimate that females were about 110 pounds and 3.11 inches tall. Scientists guess that males were about the same size as females because both sexes have upper canines of similar sizes. Her skeleton has an interesting combination of human and ape features. Ardi had a foot with a divergent big toe for climbing and gripping trees, but at the same time her pelvis was differently shaped from apes and suggests that this species could potentially walk upright. Another aspect of her skeleton that suggests this is that her wrists can bend backwards, unlike stiff wrists of chimps and gorillas that lean on their wrists in the form of walking. This species had a small face and a brain with more delicate features than a chimp. In 1995, Meave Leakey and her team discovered a new species in northern Kenya at the site of Kanapoi, Australopithecus anamensis. Her team was conducting this dig at the same spot that Brian Patterson discovered an arm bone in 1965. At the time, the arm bone was not enough to name a new species. This species lived in eastern Africa, more specifically in Lake Turkana, Kenya, and Middle Awash and Ethiopia, about 4.2 to 3.9 million years ago. Scientists guess that this species is comparable to a chimpanzee and that the males were larger than the females. Like many of the early human ancestors, this species had both human and ape-like traits. The species had long forearms and probably was adept at climbing trees. The formation of their shin bone is the most interesting find from this species in terms of human evolution. The shape of the tibia and the ankle joint are similar to humans today, and scientists gather from the shaping and orientation of the bones that this species would be able to walk upright and support their full body weight on just one leg at a time. The species Australopithecus gari is still quite a mystery to the scientists, as there are very few fossil records of it. Berhane Asfaw and Tim White are credited to the discovery of this species. They excavated the site of Fori, Middle Awash, Ethiopia in 1990 and then again from 1996 to 1998, and they named the species in 1997 by borrowing the word gari from the Afar language. The word translated literally means surprise. This species lived in eastern Africa about 2.5 million years ago. The size of the species is still unknown and will remain that way until more fossils are discovered. The brain case of this species is slightly smaller than the Australopithecus rudolphus. This species also had a large protruding jaw with large enamel-coated back teeth. The fossils of this species were discovered with some old stone tools used for breaking animal bones. This species is thought to be the first stone tool maker by some scientists. In 2001, Bridget Sinute and Martin Pickford discovered and named a new species, Orion tugenesis. This ancient species is dated between 6.2 and 5.8 million years ago and lives in the Tugen Hills of central Kenya. This species is definitely more similar to apes than humans, but it is included in the search for human origins and the study of evolution because the fossils lead scientists to believe that this species walked upright like humans today. Another similarity to humans today is their teeth, small and coated with thick enamel. Size-wise, scientists believe this species is similar in stature to female chimpanzees. Sahelanthropus tychodenus was discovered in northern Chad by Michael Brunet in 2001. This is a very ancient species that lived somewhere between 7 to 6 million years ago. Only cranial fossils have been discovered, so knowing the size of this species is difficult, but scientists estimate they are roughly the size of a chimpanzee. This species also had a combination of ape and human-like features. This species had a brain slightly smaller than a chimpanzee's, and its features were very ape-like in appearance. This species resembles humans with their small canines, and their spinal cord opening at the base of the skull is like humans and not towards the back as it is in apes. This is some of the oldest evidence for a human ancestor walking upright. Homo florensis was discovered in 2003 by an Indonesian and Australian research team in Flores, Indonesia. This species is fairly recent and lives between only 95,000 to 17,000 years ago in Indonesia. The species is small and is rightly nicknamed hobbit. Estimates from a female skeleton place their height at 3 foot 6 inches and 66 pounds. This species is characterized with small hands, short legs, and big feet. Their facial features include big teeth and receding chins and foreheads. Some scientists believe that this species is actually a Homo sapien with a growth disorder or disease, but most agree that Homo florensis is its own distinct species. Ardipithecus cadaba was named in 2004 by Johannes Halley Sales, Gwen Sua, and Tim White. Halley Sales actually discovered a lower jaw piece of this species in 1997, but at the time did not realize it was an entirely new species. This species lived 5.8 to 5.2 million years ago in eastern Africa, specifically in Middle Awash Valley of Ethiopia. This species was most likely roughly the size of a chimpanzee. This species likely walked upright based on studying the fossil features. Only fossils of this species' teeth and non-cranial bones have been discovered. The search for human origins is a long continuing study. Scientists are continuing to make new discoveries all the time. With time, we may be able to conclusively know where people came from. Perhaps we will find a definitive missing link between humans and apes. The search for the origins of humankind will continue to fascinate us for as long as we still have unanswered questions about our ancestors.